Good morning. Welcome to the Carbondale Unitarian Fellowship, a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association, sharing the good news of Unitarian Universalism with folks throughout the river region. Our good news is a message of love, freedom, reason, respect, and justice as the basis for religious community. My name is Kathy O'Laughlin. I'm involved in the Social Action Committee and Awakening Heart Dharma Group, and today I'm your Sunday Services Facilitator. We are a congregation of open minds and hearts, all ages, all colors, all genders, all abilities, all kinds of wealth, all kinds of love. If you're a newcomer this morning, I'd like to extend a special welcome to you. We're so glad you're here. Please introduce yourself in the chat, found in the center of the bottom toolbar on your screen, or at our online coffee hour after the service. Now, I invite you to select Gallery View from the top right-hand corner of your screen so we can wave at each other, connecting our congregation over space.
Good morning, everyone. It is good to be together. I'm Reverend Sarah Richards, the minister here at Carbondale Unitarian Fellowship. And again, on this morning that we mark a full year now of being virtual, of connecting virtually instead of in person. I just want to remind everyone something that you know about by now, that this congregation is not the building, that we meet and connect whenever we are together in whatever form that takes. So when I say it is good to be together, I really mean it. It is really good to be with all of you here this morning. As we continue our thinking and our delving deep into the theme of the month, which is, what does it mean to be a people of commitment? And last week, we talked about the commitments we make to others, other organizations, as well as other people, and specifically this faith community, the commitments that we have made in the past and those that we are fulfilling and living into now. Of course, from that service, and if you've been thinking about commitments at all, you know that commitments to others and commitments that you make to yourself, there's not really a strict dividing line, because the commitments you make to others definitely imply some promise that you make to yourself as well to do that, and vice versa. When you make a commitment to yourself, you're influencing your relationships with other people. So it's not a clear dividing line. And as we keep those commitments, break them, renew them to family, to fellowship, the earth, the ultimate, we change as well. And in making commitments to ourselves, we affect those we live with and those who come after us, something that we don't often think of. Today, we'll hear some stories of commitments to self. Each story is unique, but also connected. And I encourage you to listen in their stories for the echoes of your own story. You might want to get a pen and paper handy, or just get ready to type into your device, whatever it is, because you might want to record your thoughts as we're going to take time after each story to kind of absorb and reflect. So now I'm so eager to get started this morning on this exploration. So let us begin with our chalice lighting, the chalice symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. If you have a chalice at home, please, you are very welcome to light it with us all at the end of the chalice lighting.
Our chalice lighting words are by Reverend Gretchen Haley. It starts here, in this moment, in this breath, you feel rising in your chest. This beat building between us, the healing, the hunger, the hope, the courage, the calling, the commitment, the drawing out of a new day. It begins now in the imagination. In this story we weave together, this song we sing, this prayer we bring into being from our hearts to our lips, from our hands to our life, our shared life. It starts here with praise and thanksgiving, forgiveness, and this humble centering confession that we could be wrong, this promise that we make to keep learning, to keep trying, to keep our sense of humor, to keep close, this knowing that we are all in this together. Come, let us begin. Come, let us worship together.
Kathy has lit the chalice, and now, with intention, she puts a pebble in her bowl of water, letting that intention ripple out beyond the room, beyond those walls, beyond all knowing. All are invited to do the same at home, to mark a joy, a sorrow, any other feeling or intention you have during the service.
Our reading this morning is titled My Commitments to Myself by Laura Mancuso. I take care of myself first because I am deserving of exquisite care. I take care of myself to maintain the capacity to help others. I move and stretch my body every day. I spend time in nature, attuning my senses to the earth's wisdom. I ration my daily exposure to the news. I identify and access credible sources of information. I protect myself from being overwhelmed by information about the pandemic. I pace myself. I sit with the reality of uncertainty and impermanence and allow it to temper my desire to be in control. I listen without judgment to others' reactions, which may be different from mine. I forgive myself and others when stress brings out our shadow selves. I feel fear fully when I am fearful. I experience sadness fully when I am sad. I allow anger fully when I am angry. I relish joy fully when I am joyful. I seek out healthy pleasures and indulge in them without guilt. I remind myself that feelings are transient states that move through me. They do not last, and they do not define me, nor do my thoughts. I balance my drive for self-improvement and compassionate acceptance of myself as I am right now. I initiate contact with loved ones to let them know I hold them in my heart. I seek out with increased sensitivity those who are the most vulnerable. If possible, I share my resources with those who need help to survive. When possible, I move away from people, situations, and experiences that do not serve my highest good. I strengthen my connection to my sources of spiritual strength so that I continue to be replenished. I acknowledge the nearness of death as a key motivator for living a full life. I pray for the suffering of all beings to cease. I grieve my losses and celebrate my successes. I remain open to new ways of being, surprising sources of joy, and unanticipated discoveries every day. I invite you now to sing our first hymn, Do You Hear? Words will be on the screen.
Where you stand, to the sky, to the land. Do you hear, in the heights on the plain, in the vale on the main, in the sun, in the rain? Do you hear, through the roar, through the rush, through the throng, through the crush? Do you hear in the hush of your soul? Do you hear? Till the heart's call to will, hear a sigh startling shrill in your soul, in your soul. From the place where you stand to the outermost strand. Do you hear, oh my friend? Do you hear all the dreams, all the dares, all the sighs, all the prayers? They are yours there. Do you hear?
And now we come to that time in our service that we share our joys and our sorrows, our fears and our hopes in fellowship. And before we begin today, I did want to mark and have us reflect together that today is today marks a full year of us not being able to worship together and in person, and not being able to smile and hold a hand, pat a back, give a hug, sing together, listening to all the harmonies, just being together and sharing the same space, not being able to hear our choir, not being able to see the children who make this a living, thriving place, and hear their ideas and their views and perspectives. This has been a tough time. Obviously, I'm not going to bring to mind the wider impact of this pandemic. I'm sure we've all been doing that these past weeks as we're hitting the year anniversary of various things. And the loss of life is just unbearable. Here in the fellowship, we have lost 12 members of our congregation over the past year. And it's not directly from COVID, but the fact that we couldn't come together and remember them together and offer each other comfort and bring their presence in, celebrate their lives, that has been especially wounding for our congregation. So I'd like to just offer up a prayer or meditation, however you want to do it. I'm going to start, and then we're going to go into silence for just a moment. Now you can add your own prayers and hopes. We ask the Spirit of life the spirit of love that has not left us. We have seen it and experienced it throughout this year, but we invoke that spirit of life and spirit of love in this moment so that we can appreciate all that we have lost. The people, the experiences, and also let us take this moment to appreciate the things that we have gained. We've gained a new insight into how we can be together. And we have gained a new appreciation for those little things in life, so that when we are able to be together again, how much more deeply felt will be those hugs, those handshakes, those shared potlucks. Let's take a moment now to remember, reflect with gratitude and hope, as well as loss. Amen. As we reflect on this last year in this day, I think the sorrows that we are experiencing now, and those the fears that we have, they might seem small in comparison to what this last year has meant, and it is so important for us to be able to share those sorrows and deep personal concerns, so that we can be heard and seen and held. And it's important for us to listen and hold those sorrows and those fears. So if anyone has such an experience that they would like to share at this moment, I invite you to, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I'm having a little computer difficulty. I invite you to come forward by unmuting and maybe raising your hand, and just start talking if we don't catch you. Well, I do have a sorrow that our friend, our member, Joanne Nelson, has suffered the loss of her brother. And I invite anyone who is a friend of Joanne's to reach out to her and offer your condolences. As I was saying before, it's so hard to lose a loved one at any time, but in these times when we can't be together, it makes it especially hard. So we hold Joanne in our hearts, and I hope that we also will be reaching out to her. Do we have any other sorrows or worries or personal concerns to share? Okay. Well, even on this day when we are remembering the folks that we've lost and all the small losses, the large ones, we can also reflect on those things that we have gratitude for. One of those things is being together right now in this moment. But I hope that there are some other joys and positive milestones that people would like to share in fellowship. Janet, go ahead.
Okay, our covenant group, everyone will have had their and will be 2 weeks past. So we will be able to meet in person.
Okay, I'm going to translate because the audio is still hard, but I knew what you're talking about. Janet's saying that her covenant group, everyone has had their second shot, and by the time that they are meeting next time, they can meet in person because they'll all be fully vaccinated and after the period of time, the safety time. So that's something to have a lot of joy about. They'll be able to meet in person at the fellowship. Thanks, Janet. Is that Dorothy? Go ahead.
Hi, my sister was in the hospital, but she is out now and she's doing much better. And she had a bleeding ulcer, but she's back home, and her animals and her husband were all very happy to have her back.
Great. Glad to hear that she's doing better. Anyone else have a... There's Candy. Go ahead, and then Bob.
I have a joy that has to do with nature. Right now, I'm very grateful for the hard rain we had recently. John and I decided to go out and look for waterfalls right on the day after. And we were not disappointed. We were treated to the most spectacular display of waterfalls I've ever seen at Rocky Bluff, which is in the Crab Orchard National Wildlife Area. So grateful for waterfalls and rain.
Great. Thanks, Candy. Okay, Bob Swenson.
Yeah, I'll try to be quick. This was a milestone this week. Karen and I both got our shots, and our second shots. So we see a light at the end of the tunnel. Karen had a birthday, so we've kept each other alive for the last year, which is good. It's a positive thing.
That's right.
For us, anyhow. And because of her birthday, we got to see our grandkids on Zoom for over an hour. The kids on Orcas Island. And it was just wonderful to see them and for them to see us, to know that we're still here too. So it's been a sweet week.
Wonderful. Grandchildren therapy is so important. I see Rob had his hand up, and then Miriam.
So this coming week, a child of the fellowship, Brendan, will be celebrating his birthday. I can't believe that he's going to be 14 already, but yeah, that's a huge joy in this household.
Happy birthday early to Brendan, and happy birthday late to Karen Swenson. Okay, and Miriam.
I have a gratitude and a joy. My gratitude is to Laura Basanta for being the force that she is and
That's
for
right.
pulling off another successful drive-through event. It was wonderful to see everyone, and that's my joy.
Yay. Yay, yes. That was a lot of fun, even though it was not the bright sunshiny day. Everybody that came lent a lot of sunshine. Anyone else have a joy? Or yes, go ahead, Jody.
Okay, mine's kind of just a thought that maybe other people would feel kind of aligned with, and also a joy mixed with that. But I am recognizing and have talked to others about this. I'm sure it's not a phenomenon that's new, but oddly, like I don't know if it's just the way that I handle anxiety or worrisome situations myself, but I feel like I'm recognizing that I'm feeling now, even though, for instance, Charles and I have both had our first shots purely out of almost a fluke of extras, and anyways, wonderful circumstances, of course, feeling blessed, but so noting the sense of relief just across the planet that things are hopefully moving forward and looking more positive. I feel like I just I have this kind of residual, this feeling of exhaustion, and just kind of like walking around like, what in the world just happened? So it's kind of like you like trudge through and get through it when you need to, full force, like positive thoughts, just like keeping it going. And then after it gets better overall, I'm feeling more of a sense, a little bit of anxiety and just exhaustion, but positive also. But my joy is that all of that is leading into that. Charles and I were just talking this morning that now it's possible we're making plans to go see our family, even for honestly just a brief weekend here in the beginning of April, because my mom in Pennsylvania was just able to get her first shot just this past week. So we're going to make those plans. So that's a wonderful thing to finally be able to look forward to.
Thanks, Jody. All right, anyone else looking through? Okay. Well, that was a good one to kind of culminate our time of sorrows and joys, because Jody reminded us that it's always everything. And so for all of those sorrows of loss and worries that continue, for all of the joys of reconnecting, of springtime, and for all of those sorrows and joys that and all the milestones that are still held in our hearts. We lit candles, and now we'll share a moment of silence.
Every month, we give non-pledge contributions to a nonprofit organization which furthers UU principles. March's recipient is Feed My Sheep, a mission of Bethel AME Church. We welcome Dolores Penn, its coordinator, to tell us about it.
Hello, everyone. It's good to see everyone that I know and those that I don't know. Again, during this pandemic time, at least we can get together, as she said, through this virtual thing. Yes, I'm here to talk to you about the Feed My Sheep. Feed My Sheep, of course, as everyone knows, it's a mission of our church at Bethel AME Church here in Carbondale. And it's a mission that we are dedicated to feeding our area homeless, unemployed, and homebound seniors. We have been doing this for almost a decade. It'll be actually 19 years in April that we have been doing this. The name of the mission actually came from the charge that Peter was given to feed and care for his sheep, recorded in John 21:16-17. When we first started out, we was only serving soup meals to those that were hungry and bound, homeward bound and stuff in the church from like 12 to 1 o'clock, 3 days a week. Then like in mid 2000s, when our other pastor, Rick Jackson, came in, he decided that we had more people that were coming in to eat and everything, that he asked if we would start volunteering to do 5 days a week instead of 3 days a week. And instead of just serving soup, we started feeding full meals to everyone that came inside. The soup kitchen has really been blessed with not only volunteers coming in to help us, but also with donations and with just the word out that, you know, we're feeding people, and being able to continue that with the support of a lot of local churches here in Carbondale, a lot of organizations, and a lot of individuals, even people from Unitarian Fellowship. We really miss seeing you guys coming in and helping us out. We also feel blessed because the community steps up whenever we're in need. We needed a refrigerator one time. Our refrigerator had went out, and another church had heard about it. And so they went out and actually purchased us a new refrigerator, which we really appreciated. And the same is actually being done with our stove. Our stove is kind of getting a little worn out now a little bit. So we are in the process of receiving a new stove. During this pandemic, though, we have been still we hooked up with the warming center here in Carbondale. So we are still trying to continue our service in the community by cooking for them. And we cook for them 4 days a week. We still cook Monday and Tuesday and Thursday and Friday. We fix 2 meals a day for them. They're serving anywhere from 35 to 40 people a day. So with the help and support of the community and everyone, we are still doing that. We do plan to return to, well, we hope that this thing will return us to normalcy real soon. And when we do, we will be open back up at the church, at the soup kitchen. And we do plan on being open 5 days a week like we were before. And we will continue to serve in-house from 12 to 1. And we will also resume to delivering to our senior bound people as well. So I just like to thank you guys for having me here to tell you about a little bit about the soup kitchen and what we are doing and what we're planning on continuing doing after this pandemic is over. And we just thank you on behalf of my pastor and the members of my church, of Bethel AME Church, and the Feed My Sheep ministry. We thank you guys for your support and your time. And we do look forward to being back together with those that did come and help volunteer with us. So God bless you and thank you.
Thanks, Dolores. Please make your checks payable to Cuff and write "Feed My Sheep" on the memo line and mail them to Cuff, or pay online by way of PayPal. The link is in the chat box. Be sure to put "Feed My Sheep" in the notes box on the second page. And thank you for your generosity. And now our Caring Community Connection Generosity Moment this week from Gilletta Brandt.
Good morning. As she said, I'm Gilletta Brandt. Since our theme is commitment, here are some of the reasons why I have committed to the Carbondale Unitarian Fellowship. My son Max and I started attending the Unitarian Fellowship in February of 2017. We had attended a trivia night on a Saturday evening, and Max really enjoyed interacting with the other kids. He asked if we could return, and I told him the next day there were services and we could come back, and we did. Pretty much we've been here ever since. We officially joined in July of that year. I did attend previously before and during my pregnancy with Max, but was never an official member. I was a member of the choir during that time and really enjoyed it. I'll be honest that I'm an atheist and don't even consider myself a spiritual person. So what am I doing here? Basically, I wanted my son to learn values that I share without being told how to think or what he should believe. And I found that here. We live in Elkville, which is a small town a little north of Carbondale. There are 2 local churches, but I can't say that I would agree with what they teach, and therefore I would consider myself a hypocrite to attend their services. We're both very happy here because I truly feel that we have become part of a community there at the fellowship. I feel I've made genuine friendships and continue to make new ones. I wouldn't say that my contribution is great from a monetary standpoint, but I do try to donate my time also. So far, that's been as a member of the Religious Education Committee and also teaching in the RE wing about once a month. On the positive notes, I can definitely see a growth in Max and his way of thinking, feeling, and treating others. He's always described UUs as being about love for your fellow humans and for our earth. That's very simplistic, but I think that covers a lot of our principles. And you can't put a price on that. I get a great deal of joy from spending time with the young people in RE, and that's probably what I've missed the most this year. And we also miss the potlucks. We always enjoyed that. And I can't wait till we can be back in person. I also always like to do a little pitch that when we are back in person, come join us in the RE wing. Please volunteer your time if you're able. I also would say that I absolutely do not agree with everything that we do or discuss at CUF, but part of being an adult is listening to other ways of thinking, and I really value that also at the fellowship. So I have nothing but good things to say about the fellowship and the people in it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, Gilletta. And I would love to have what you just said as a transcript, because I love Max's description of Unitarian Universalism. It takes me half an hour to try and describe it, but that puts it right very concisely. So thank you. Thank you for all of your commitments to the fellowship, and especially thanks to Max for bringing both of you here. I mean, that's the thing about our congregation, any congregation, it's richer for the people who are a part of it. And that does not depend on age. It's every single person changes and helps the congregation to be more and more inclusive, and just a better place to be. So, as I mentioned in our welcome today, we're going to be thinking about commitments we make to ourselves. I was inspired by reading that poem by Laura Mancuso, My Commitments to Myself. Obviously, she wrote that during this year of pandemic. It's almost like she is repeating them to reinforce as a kind of prayer or meditation to help sustain her during this time. She begins her poem with two key statements. I take care of myself first because I am deserving of exquisite care. I take care of myself to maintain the capacity to help others. These are the whys of her commitments to self-care. The rest of the poem, the rest of her commitments, are essentially the hows. She takes care of herself in many intentional ways, from moving her body every day to feeling all her feelings, recognizing impermanence, remaining open to new ways of being, surprising sources of joy and unanticipated discoveries every day. When you were listening to that poem read by Kathy earlier, were you surprised by any of the commitments listed? Did some of them resonate with you? For me, the most remarkable thing about this poem is its existence at all. Reverend Mancuso has written down commitments she has made to herself. When we reflect on commitments, it's generally commitments to others, to our life partners, to our children, parents, family. Very few commitments are explicitly stated and written down, though. I mean, I couldn't really think of anything like maybe a wedding vow is the closest thing I could think of. Commitments we make to our employers, to our faith community, might at least require our signature as public acknowledgement. But what about those commitments we make to ourselves? I mean, for me personally, this month has been a chance for me to just reflect to see, yes, I have made commitments to myself. It hasn't even been a conscious thing, let alone written down. So in a moment, we'll listen to the words of three CUF folks describe commitments that they've made to themselves. But for now, I invite us all into a moment of silent contemplation of our own commitments to ourselves. So if you would take a few slow, deep breaths. Relax your shoulders. Plant your feet on the ground if you can. And just follow the breath in and out. What is a commitment you made to yourself long ago, or maybe in this past year? How have you kept that commitment? Or how have you let it go? How has keeping that commitment or letting it go changed you? Changed your relationships? Take a moment now to ask yourselves your own questions. Now gently finish your thought. Return your attention to the breath coming in, going out. Feel your feet on the floor, the sounds around you. So everyone has their own take on what it means to make a commitment to themselves. The form of the commitment must also be unique to the person. When I asked folks to share a commitment for this service, I didn't ask them to read Reverend Mancuso's poem first as a jumping off point. Yet there are some similar threads, you might say, to the fabric or notes to the music, even across these very different stories. Mancuso writes, "I balance my drive for self-improvement with compassionate acceptance of myself as I am right now. I thought of that when I heard Mallory Swafford's story. As you listen, see if you hear some common notes with your own. We'll take a moment afterward for silent contemplation.
Hello, everyone. Mallory Swafford here. I agreed to do a video on commitment. I am taking a video from my parents' house. We came up to visit for the long spring break weekend. We're all fully vaccinated now, so we can do that and feel comfortable doing so, which is great. So Reverend Sarah asked me to talk a little bit about commitment, maybe commitments we made to ourselves. Commitments that have changed over the years and how that might impact the future. And it led me to think about when I was, a teenager, 16 or 17, maybe, I was lifeguarding. And my boss at the time asked me, I think he said what my greatest fear was. And I said, not being extraordinary or being mediocre was my greatest fear at 16. I wanted to be a shark researcher. I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to do all this crazy, crazy stuff. And somewhere between 16 and 19, I decided that that was a bad thing. And that my ambition made me difficult to get along with. A lot of people are maybe a little intimidated by ambition. And so I ran into that wall. And probably around 19, no, sorry. If I was 19, probably around 25, 26, I'll be 29 this month. 27 probably, around 27, I began to start realizing that with most things, being extraordinary is in the eye of the beholder, right? It's all about your perception of extraordinary. And so while I didn't become a famous shark researcher and I haven't traveled the world, I went back to school online while working a full-time job with a newborn. And I did all of that while helping my husband run a small business. And so that, in my mind, was pretty extraordinary. And since then, I've got a job that I really, really, really love, and I'm going to continue to do things that I deem extraordinary. And so this year, what I've really been focusing on is things that bring me happiness. And so I think it's extraordinary to pursue happiness with everything you have, just absolutely relentlessly, whatever makes you happy, pursuing that. And so that's the commitment that I've made to myself, and that I'm going to continue. Is to pursue happiness relentlessly. And I think that makes us extraordinary to do that, because it's not always easy to do. So figuring out what really, really makes me happy, what I really, really enjoy, and pursuing that with everything I have is an extraordinary thing to do. And that's what I'm going to do, is just keep being extraordinary. I miss everybody. I hope we all get together and be back at Cuff soon. And you guys have a wonderful afternoon.
Most, if not all, Unitarian Universalists have made commitments to their spiritual growth and sustenance. Reverend Mancuso writes, I strengthen my connection to my sources of spiritual strength so that I continue to be replenished. After you hear Darrell Young share his story of commitment to spiritual discernment, we'll take a moment to reflect on our own.
Hello, Cuff. I'm Darrell Young, coming to you from my kitchen table today since I'm unable to join in the live Zoom service. The theme for today's service is commitment, the commitments we make and the commitments that we break and the commitments that we renew. I think in life we make many, many, many commitments. I know for myself, obviously a commitment as a husband and as a father and as work, there's just lots and lots of different types of commitments we make. But the specific commitment I'd like to talk about today is my own commitment to finding my spiritual path, my own spiritual journey. Recently, when we had all the snow, I was busy cleaning, got very, cabin fever was setting in pretty badly. So I got very busy cleaning out closets and cleaning off bookshelves. And one of the things I found in all that cleaning was this little tiny Bible that I've had since I was very young, about 5 or 6 years old. And something that's funny, if you look in it, there are entire chapters that are highlighted, not just verses, but entire chapters. And I have the vaguest memory of doing that. And what I remember doing was thinking, adults around me, I would see highlight in their Bibles verses that were important to them. And I can remember sitting down one day and saying, well, I'm going to highlight everything that's important. And so I just would highlight entire chapters because obviously I didn't have the ability to discern what was important and what was not. I just highlighted everything. And in some ways, that's just kind of a funny childhood story. But in another way, I think maybe it shows an early commitment to finding my spiritual path, to trying to find out what is important for our spiritual path. Over time in my life, I feel like that spiritual path and the way that's looked has looked different. The commitments associated with it have looked different. For the very vast majority of my life, I participated in my grandmother's faith, which was the Catholic Church. I was very, very close to my grandmother, and as a result, every Sunday morning there'd be a little honk honk out front from her car, and I would tootle out there and get in the car and we would ride to church together. And it was that way for years. And then of course, later on in my life, I went into the Catholic seminary and studied to be a priest, which obviously I didn't stick with that, but then I did go into teaching in Catholic school for 9 years before I switched to public school. So I definitely had a very long-standing relationship with the spiritual journey through the Catholic Church. However, there were some things in my life about 5 years ago and some things that happened and some things that were said that led me to Cuff's door. And the impact that Cuff has had on my life is allowing me the space and allowing me the safety to really dig into what I see for my spiritual journey and what I want for my spiritual journey. There is a quote from Tolkien that the Life is Good company loves to reprint on things, and it's one of my favorite quotes, which is, not all who wander are lost. And I've really always held on to that quote, that you may wander here, there, and yonder, but you're really not lost. It's about the journey more so than the destination. Over the last year, now it's been a year this weekend, when we've been observing, fairly strict quarantine because of the pandemic, it's afforded me a very unique opportunity in my life, which was the time to really dive into what I want for my spiritual journey and where I want my spiritual path to be. And a lot of that was with Cuff's assistance. And I say that not all who wander are lost. And I firmly believe that, but I also believe that sometimes very long journeys lead us back home again. And through the course of the quarantine pandemic, I began to really miss and yearn for that faith that I was able to share with my grandmother, although she's been gone now since 2012. But I really began to yearn for that and miss that, and decided ultimately that I would rejoin the Catholic Church and change my status with CUF from member to friend. And I really emphasize that I still am a friend of CUF. I'm not abandoning my friends there and not abandoning the principles that CUF stands for by any means. But the depth of my spiritual journey and the way it has progressed, that's just the place where I felt most at home right now. So kind of in closing, I encourage all of you to use your highlighters in your own life, the way I talked about the highlighter in my little childhood Bible. Whether you're highlighting everything or whether you're able to really focus down and narrow down on just a couple key points, doesn't really matter, because it's about the journey and it's not about the destination. I'm very thankful for the time I've been with all of you at CUF, and as I say, I do plan to continue to become a friend. And again, I wish you luck on all of your spiritual journeys, and good luck with your highlighters. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon, hopefully even eventually in person. Have a wonderful day. No matter what our commitments, no matter what form they take, we can and sometimes do break them. We can decide to let them go or refresh and renew them. The line, "I sit with the reality of uncertainty and impermanence and allow it to temper my desire for control," is a commitment. And it also applies to making, keeping, breaking, renewing them. Let's hear Carmelita's story and then have a moment of reflection. Carmelita wasn't able to be with us this morning, so she sent me her story, and I'm going to read it to you now. Try to picture her as I read. She says, "I had made a commitment to myself to complete my master's before I turned 50. I have previously put my all into my education. I started working a particular position and felt like it was worth it to put my all in. I let a class drop during that time. And within 3 weeks, I left that job. I reevaluated what my promises were to myself. I found in breaking one commitment, it led me to realize it was okay to leave situations that are not working for me. I spent many years in positions that were not good, jobs where I was not treated well. But I had to pay rent, feed kids,
And now, without that responsibility, I have found a freedom in my promises to myself and walking away. I know that I will finish my master's at some time, right? And and right now, I am enjoying the ride. Friends, I invite you to continue your contemplation and commitments to yourself in the coming days and weeks. Reflecting in this way can lend clarity to our purpose in actions we take every day to care for ourselves, for others, for the community, for the earth. Those questions that you asked yourself about commitments you have made, those can lead you to a better understanding of yourself now and the direction of your life. May we commit to reflecting on and acting on our commitments, moving toward people, situations, and experiences that serve our highest good. May our commitments help us remain open to new ways of being, surprising sources of joy, and unanticipated discoveries every day. May it be so, and amen.
1, 2, 3. Grab your coat and get your hat. Leave your worries on the doorstep. Just direct your feet to the sunny side of the street. Can't you hear that pitter pat? And that happy sound is your step. Life can be so sweet on the sunny side of the street. I used to walk in the shade with those blues on the rain, but I'm not afraid. This rover's crossed over, and if I never have a dog, I'll be rich as Rockefeller. Gold dust at my feet on the sunny side of the street. Grab your coat and get your hat. Leave your worries on the doorstep. Just direct your feet to the sunny side of the street. Can't you hear that pitter pat? And that happy sound is your step. Life can be so sweet
we have a few announcements before closing. First, please be sure to read all of the announcements in the email that was sent this morning with the order of service. Please note the upcoming Cuff Rising listening circles on Thursday evening and next Sunday's coffee hour. We need everyone's input about the post-pandemic fellowship. What have we learned over the past year? What do we want to keep, adapt, or let go of as we transition back to in-person activities? See the full list of discussion questions attached to the announcement and in the bulletin. Also, next week's service will be the blessing of the animals. See the email for additional details about that. Also, we're off to a great start with our pledge campaign. If you haven't already, please do submit your pledge and stay on for coffee hour today for an update on the status of the campaign. If you need a shot of community at any time of the week, just type in Carbondale Unitarian Fellowship in the YouTube search bar and browse through past services. Now let's thank our musicians, Dorothy and Kent McDaniel. Thanks to Rob Gallagly and Miriam Link Mullison, our Zoom co-hosts this morning. Our gratitude to Dolores Penn from Feed My Sheep. Thanks to Gilletta Brandt for her caring community connection generosity moment. And thanks to Mallory Swafford, Darrell Young, and Carmelita Cahill for sharing their stories of commitment with us. And thanks to all of you who were part of this service, which is each and all here together in online fellowship. Newcomers, we're very happy you joined us this morning. Please put your questions, comments, and/or contact info into the chat box and we'll follow up. We hope you'll stay on for virtual coffee hour after the service so we can get to know each other. Now I invite everyone to join in singing our final hymn, This Little Light of Mine. The words will be on the screen.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up the world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up the world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up the world, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Thank you so much again to Dorothy and Kent for this great uplifting music. And once again, especially in that last tune, I just cannot wait to sing with everybody. That's definitely something that we can all look forward to. So now I invite those of you who are with someone else in body, please join hands. And those of us who are joined in spirit, I invite you to raise your palms to receive and give the blessing. This is by Reverend Scott Taylor, heavily inspired by Johann Wolfgang Goethe. Whatever you can do or dream we can do, begin it.
Boldness has genius and power and magic in it.
May we ever be bold in our living and loving.
Amen. Go in peace with love for justice.
But hang around for coffee hour.